I love my kids. Seriously, I do. Jack is 6 and Mia is 4. They're great kids, but let's be honest, raising tiny humans in Sydney these days costs an arm and a leg. Between the mortgage that's eating us alive and the price of groceries, my wife Sarah and I made a decision last Christmas. We sat on the back deck with a bottle of Shiraz, looked at the chaos of toys in the yard, and agreed. The shop is closed. 2 is the magic number. No more Rugrats. Now, Sarah has been on the pill since she was 18. It messes with her head, makes her gain weight, and honestly, it kills her mood in the bedroom. I watched her pop that little white tablet every morning with a grimace. So, being the noble husband that I am, I decided to take one for the team. I decided to get the snip, a vasectomy. But here's the kicker. I didn't tell her. Why? Because I wanted it to be a surprise. I wanted to wait until I got the official all-clear letter from the doctor, wrap it up in a nice box, and hand it to her over a candlelit dinner. Surprise, babe. You can throw those pills in the bin forever. I'm shooting blanks. Romantic, right? I thought so. So, back in February, I told her I was going on a fishing trip with the boys for the weekend. I wasn't fishing. I was lying in a motel room in Newcastle with a bag of frozen peas on my junk, watching cricket highlights and feeling like a hero. I went through the pain. I did the follow-up tests. I waited the mandatory 3 months for the pipes to clear out. Everything was going to plan. Or so I thought. Fast forward 6 months to last Friday. The mail arrives, and there it is. The envelope from Dr. Chang's urology clinic. I ripped it open in the driveway. Sperm count 0. Motility 0. I was officially shooting blanks. The factory was shut down. I was stoked. I felt lighter than air. I shoved the letter into my back pocket, grabbed a bottle of nice bubbly from the bottle-o, and walked inside, ready to drop the good news. But as soon as I opened the door, I knew something was up. The house smelled like roast lamb with rosemary. My absolute favorite, usually reserved for birthdays, or when I've fixed something major around the house. Sarah was wearing that red dress I love. The candles were lit. The kids were nowhere to be seen. Mum took them for the night, she said, beaming at me. She looked glowing. We sat down to eat. I was bursting to tell her my secret. I had my hand on the letter in my pocket. But before I could speak, she reached across the table and grabbed my hand. Her eyes were swimming with tears. Happy tears. Jack, she whispered, I know we said the shop was closed. I know things have been tight. She pulled a small rectangular gift box out from under her napkin and slid it across the table. I frowned. Was it a watch? Keys to a new car? I opened the lid. Inside, resting on a bed of tissue paper, was a plastic stick with a little window and 2 very distinct pink lines. We're pregnant, she squealed, clapping her hands. It's a miracle, Jack. I must have missed a pill, or maybe it's just meant to be. God has blessed us with number 3. My heart stopped. The room started to spin. The smell of roast lamb suddenly made me want to vomit. I felt the letter in my pocket burning against my ass cheek like a branding iron. 0 count. 0 motility. Miracle? Unless the Holy Spirit is a 25-year-old personal trainer, this wasn't a miracle. I sat there staring at that pea stick like it was a live grenade. My brain was doing calculus at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Operation in February. Clearance in May. It's August now. The pipes are cut, tied, and burnt. The math didn't add up. Unless spontaneous regeneration is real, that baby isn't mine. I wanted to slam Dr. Chang's letter on the table right there. I wanted to scream. I wanted to flip the roast lamb onto the floor. But then a thought hit me. A cold, terrifying thought. What if? What if the vasectomy failed? It happens, right? I read on Google it's like 1 in 2,000 cases. What if I am that one poor bastard? If I accuse her now and I'm wrong, I destroy my marriage forever. I look like a paranoid lunatic. I needed to be absolutely certain. I needed bulletproof evidence before I nuked my entire life. So, I took a deep breath, swallowed the bile rising in my throat, and put on the performance of a lifetime. Seriously, give me a gold logie right now. Wow, I choked out, forcing a smile that felt like my face was cracking. That's incredible, babe. A real miracle. I stood up and hugged her. Over her shoulder, my eyes were dead. I stared at the wall, feeling her tears soak into my shirt. I knew you'd be happy, she sobbed into my chest. I was so scared you'd be mad about the money, but it's fate, Jack. Yeah, I said, patting her back robotically. Fate. I kissed her on the forehead. I'm just going to run to the bathroom, I said. Too much excitement, bladder's playing up. I locked the bathroom door, turned on the tap full blast, and stared at myself in the mirror. Tomorrow morning, I wasn't going to work. I was going back to the urologist, and this time I was going to watch him check the sample with my own eyes. First thing Monday morning, I called the boss and chucked a sickie. Told him I had a dodgy servo pie on the way home and was spewing my guts out. I drove straight to Dr. Chang's clinic in Chatswood. I didn't even have an appointment. I just barged in like a man on a mission. The receptionist tried to stop me, but I wasn't having a bar of it. I need to see Dr. Chang, now. It's an emergency regarding my plumbing. Dr. Chang is a calm bloke, very professional. He looked at me over his glasses like I was a lunatic. Mr. Thompson, he said gently, we sent your clearance letter in May. The procedure was successful. You are sterile. I know what the letter says, Doc, I snapped, pacing the tiny room. But my wife reckons she's pregnant. So either I'm the second coming of Christ, or your scissors were blunt. Check me again. He sighed, handed me the dreaded plastic cup, and pointed to the private room. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in his office, my leg bouncing up and down like a jackhammer. Dr. Chang walked back in holding a clipboard. He didn't look happy. He looked sympathetic. Well, I asked. My throat was dry. Mr. Thompson, he said, taking off his glasses. I checked the sample myself, twice, under high magnification. He turned the clipboard around. Azoospermia, 0 count. There are no swimmers, Jack. None. You are shooting blanks. I slumped back in the chair. Relief washed over me, followed instantly by a tsunami of rage. So it's impossible? Medically speaking? Yes, Chang said. Unless she underwent IVF with frozen sperm from before the operation, natural conception is impossible. I walked out of that clinic into the bright sunlight. People were rushing to work, grabbing coffees, living their normal lives. And me? I was standing on the footpath, holding a piece of paper that proved my wife was a liar, a cheater, and possibly the best actress in New South Wales. I didn't go straight home and smash the TV. I went to the local pub, ordered a pint of VB, and sat in the corner. I needed a clear head. If the baby wasn't mine, then whose was it? I'm a tradie, not a private investigator, but it doesn't take a genius to follow the money. I pulled out my phone and logged into our joint CommBank account. I scrolled back through the last 6 months. At first, nothing stood out. Groceries, petrol, the kids' swimming lessons. But then I noticed a pattern. Every Tuesday and Thursday, a charge for $85 to Elite Core Fitness. Sarah had been going to these expensive personal training sessions since March. I remembered the trainer, Trent, a bloke with fake teeth, a deep spray tan, and biceps bigger than my thighs. I asked her about him once, just making a joke about all the time she was spending there. She laughed and said, "Oh my God, Jack, relax. Trent is 100% gay. He has a partner in Newtown. We just talk about reality TV." Well, clearly Trent was a lot more flexible than she let on. I drove home. Sarah was still at work. Her iPad was sitting on the kitchen counter, charging. We never had secrets with our devices. We knew each other's passcodes. I unlocked the iPad and opened her iMessages. It took me exactly 30 seconds to find the thread. It wasn't saved under Trent. It was saved under Sarah's Lash Tech. I started reading, and honestly, it made my stomach turn. They weren't talking about reality TV. They were talking about the pregnancy. I put the iPad down. My hands were shaking, not from sadness, but from pure, concentrated rage. Clueless. That's what she called me. A clueless ATM machine to fund her life with her fake gay personal trainer. I could have packed my bags right then. I could have confronted her when she walked through the door. But no, she wanted to play games. She wanted a performance. So I decided to give her a front row seat to the best show in town. I had to wait 3 agonizing weeks for the first dating scan. 3 weeks of rubbing her feet, buying her late-night cravings, Tim Tams and Vegemite toast, and listening to her talk about baby names. Every time she smiled at me, I wanted to scream, but I played the part perfectly. I was the doting, clueless Aussie dad. Finally, the day arrived. We sat in the waiting room at the clinic. She was holding my hand, playing with my wedding ring. "I'm so nervous, Jack," she whispered, leaning her head on my shoulder. "Don't be," I said, staring straight ahead. We're about to get all the answers. We went into the dark room. The sonographer squirted that cold blue gel on her stomach and moved the wand around. Suddenly, the monitor flickered to life. A little grey blob appeared, and then the sound filled the room. Thump, 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 thump. A fast, steady heartbeat. The sonographer smiled. There we go. A perfectly healthy baby, measuring right on 8 weeks. Congratulations, Mum and Dad. Sarah looked up at me, tears welling in her eyes. The exact same fake tears she used at dinner 3 weeks ago. She squeezed my hand tight. Aren't we the luckiest people in the world, Jack? She sniffled. Our little miracle. I looked at the screen, watching that little heartbeat. It wasn't the kid's fault, but it wasn't my kid either. I slowly pulled my hand away from hers. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out the folded piece of paper with Dr. Chang's clinic logo on it. Yeah, someone's lucky, all right, I said, my voice dropping dead flat in that quiet room. But it sure as hell isn't me. Sarah's smile faltered. She looked at the paper. Jack, what's that? I unfolded it and laid it flat on her chest, right next to the ultrasound gel. Sarah looked down at the paper. Her eyes scanned the letterhead. Dr. Chang Urology Clinic. Post-vasectomy semen analysis. The colour drained from her face so fast, I genuinely thought she was going to pass out right there on the examination table. The poor sonographer just stood there, holding the wand, frozen like a statue. I got the snip back in February, Sarah, I said, my voice dead calm. I wanted to surprise you so you could stop taking the pill. But it turns out you ended up surprising me. She started stammering, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. The tears of joy were completely gone, replaced by pure, unadulterated panic. Jack, wait, I can explain. The clinic, they must have made a mistake. I swear to God, no mistake, I said, standing up and buttoning my jacket. I went back to Dr. Chang last Monday. He checked it twice under a microscope. 0 count. I'm shooting blanks, babe. I leaned in close so only she could hear the next part. But hey, look on the bright side. You don't have to worry about me paying for everything like you texted your lash tech. You can ask Trent. Her eyes went wide. She realized I knew everything. The iPad, the messages, the fake gay personal trainer. The whole house of cards just collapsed on her chest. You know, Trent, you're a 100% gay personal trainer who charges $85 a session to talk about reality TV? Tell him congratulations from me. He's going to be a dad. I turned to the sonographer, who looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her whole. Sorry about the drama, doll, I said, giving her a polite nod. Oh, and the bill for this ultrasound? It's on her. I walked out of the clinic, leaving the door wide open. I didn't look back. I heard her start to sob, but this time, it was real. It's been 8 months since that day. We're divorced. I got 50-50 custody of our actual 2 kids, and I kept the house. As for Sarah, she moved into a tiny apartment. And Trent? The second he realized he was on the hook for child support for the next 18 years, he packed his gym bags and bolted to Queensland. He ghosted her completely. They say babies are a miracle. And honestly, I agree. Because that baby saved me from spending the rest of my life with a liar. Cheers.